So, looking back, what's one early experience in your university life that changed the way you approach your career and your life now?
I would say staying engaged and putting your best into everything that you do, whether that be your courses, extracurriculars, or any other work that you do, that would set you up for active learning and will do you a lot of good in the long run.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 5 of the AUPP podcast. My name is Leah. I will be the host for today's episode. And in this season, we will be spotlighting AUPP alumni who are here to share their advice, their journeys, and their careers. So, without much further ado, let's welcome today's guest. Mom, could you introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, Leah. My name is Virya. I graduated from AUPP in 2024. I majored in Global Affairs, which I think now is International Relations
Yeah,
and
it is, yeah.
Diplomacy. And I also did a minor in law as well.
Oh.
Previously, I interned as a cultural affairs intern at the US Embassy in Phnom Penh, and I was also a researcher at the Asian Vision Institute. Right now, I'm working as a project assistant at an international development organization. So, what my work really covers is basically a little bit of everything. So, as an assistant, you provide overall support to project management and implementation. So, you do a little bit about monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which essentially is research in project management.
Wow.
And then we also do procurement, operations, logistics, a little bit of finance just to support the overall project implementation and ensuring that you reach your targets and that you can communicate the impacts back to the donors as well.
Wow, I feel like there's so much for you to think about and so much for you to do in this job. And am I correct to think that this job it's a nonprofit work,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
So what pushed you or inspired you to like work in this area or to dedicate yourself to nonprofit and like community empowerment jobs? Like what really pushed you to be there?
So I think it links a lot to my personal reasons. Both my parents worked in humanitarian work. My dad worked with a French association, and my mom worked in a United Nations agency. So
Oh.
growing up, I saw how their work really correlates to how development is being done in Cambodia. I had the chance to meet a lot of people, learn about what they do, and that really instilled in me how lucky I am. I feel like we're all in a position of privilege where we have access to quality education like we did at AUPP, and that really links back to how I want to use that knowledge and that privilege to give back to my community. And it's been a really rewarding experience so far. I'm always home, but I've never felt so close to home now that I'm able to work with people in the country and be able to contribute in any way that I can.
That sounds incredible. I can really see that you do feel fulfilled in this work, just like by the way you light up when you talk about it, and it makes me feel passionate for you as well. And I wanted to know, since you talked about your parents and how they worked in these like similar sectors, did they ever push you in that direction, or was this a decision that you made on your own?
I think it's similar to how it was when choosing a major. I feel like a lot of high school students are at a crossroad when they think about what they want to pursue for their higher education. My parents were very supportive in what I do. When researching about the global affairs major at AUPP, we met a counselor. They told us what some job aspirations were after students graduate from AUPP, and they were very happy that I chose this path and that their professional experiences had a role in shaping the way that I see how I would like to grow professionally and also personally as well.
Yeah.
And AUPP has been instrumental in that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like really nice to hear that your parents were happy with your choice in this because they have experience in it. I would say that my experience is a bit different where I come from a family that not many people are involved in law. So me as taking a law major, it seems very new to them, but at the same time they're very supportive of it. So I kind of it feels like, there's such a big variety in what we can do and what we can choose for our work and our careers moving forward, that even though our parents have different experiences, maybe we can still work towards like being better and improving upon ourselves that way. So I wanted to know, what is a moment when you saw like a real impact or a great difference, like on the ground, like a story that you can tell about your work?
Okay, so what I work on as a project assistant is mainly on behavior change communication. So there are many ways that development work can take form. One way is BCC, behavior change communication, where we provide knowledge and we bring information to people in communities, and that allows them to make informed decision making. So we don't force them to do anything. Basically, we're an outsider, but we work with local authorities to bring them knowledge. And so I was, I think, in Basait district in Kampong Cebu province. I interviewed this one grandma, I think in March. We provided her information about the project and how we introduced her to new technologies and how we're evolving. And she replied back with tears in her eyes. And she was very grateful that we went down to the communities and we met everyone across all ages, from young women to the elderlies, and they were so happy that we continue to do this work and that we include everyone, because they often feel like they're neglected because of their old age and the role that they play in communities. But at the end of the day, it's them who actually are the backbone to the development of this country. And it's up to us to bring that knowledge to them, and that they feel included in new information in social work, and that they're able to still grow despite their age. So I think it's for everyone. She also asked me what I was doing, like an outside of our interview, and I told her how I worked in the development sector and what we were doing and how we were traveling to different provinces across the country to bring people new information. And she mentioned about her granddaughter who was also pursuing education in Phnom Penh, and she said she would like her granddaughter to one day pursue this kind of work as well. And that, I feel like, one, we had an impact on her professionally through the research that we do and the capacity building that we provide. But then on a personal level, it also showed that we're, at the end of the day, we're all just one, and no matter where we come from, our different upbringings, it's up to us to actually know how to use our knowledge and how to give back to people. So that was a very gratifying moment for me.
It sounds so sweet. It like warms my heart to hear that, because you said a very true thing, that like most times that the elder people can feel very neglected. And I think that the work that you do really does help them stay connected to not just their grandchildren or their family, but to the world in general. And hearing that, like, the grandma felt so personally like moved by it to say that she wanted her granddaughter to go into the same line as work as you, it I think it's just a testament to show like the impact of the area of work that you have and what it means to affect people and what it means to change a person's life now and again, especially when like the world is changing so rapidly.
Exactly.
It would feel very daunting and scary for elder people to like move along and to try adapt to those changes as well. So yeah, that's really, really sweet to hear and heartwarming. And even though there's like these nice bits about your work, I want to know like what is one of the toughest parts of working in this field that people don't usually see? Because I would think that most people would think nonprofit work is like charity work. So what keeps you motivated when like challenges feel overwhelming?
So I'm quite early on in this career in the development sector, but I would say what really speaks to me, and I feel like to other people in the sector as well, is being reminded of the impact that we make on the ground. So In development work, it's not just you're doing good for people. There are a lot of factors that go into play. You work with other stakeholders and you encounter a lot of challenges. It sometimes might be quite exhausting mentally and physically. Mentally, meaning that um, you're faced with work challenges and that you're always in problem solving mode and critical thinking.
Oh.
Physically, for me personally, I do a lot of traveling. Sometimes in a month, I stay in Phnom Penh for like 2 nights because we're always out and about traveling to different provinces. But at the end of the day, we're reminded of the beneficiaries, of the people that we
Mm.
work for, and that how our efforts into this line of work would have an impact on them in improving their quality of life and their livelihoods. So I think that keeps us grounded and keeps us motivated to push through any burnout or any difficulties that we might face along the way. Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, I think that a lot of students can
Mhm.
take from that because I feel like even university
Mhm.
life can be very overwhelming. But how do you cope and like ground yourself when
Mhm.
you're in the moment? Like when there's chaos around you or something has gone wrong, how do you keep yourself composed or like how do you cope with it and still move forward?
Mhm. I think one of the lessons I learned from my line manager, my supervisor, was that it's not you against me, it's us against the problem. And
Mm.
knowing that I have great teamwork and a team that has my back really pushes me to stay calm and composed. Say, for example, you're doing something and you encounter an issue that has already passed. Instead of dwelling on who made that mistake, or
Mm.
what led to that mistake. Of course, we can talk about the problem, we can do debriefings about what went wrong and
Yes.
how we can learn from the experience. It's better to think about, okay, the problem has already happened. Now,
Mm.
what do we do next? How do we work as a team to solve this problem? And then later on, we can come back and say, okay, this was what went wrong. What can we do next time to avoid this kind of problem? So I
Yes.
think being around such dedicated colleagues and those with experiences really allowed me to get into a mindset of where I always stay grounded to the purpose and also being result oriented because
Mm.
everyone is working hard. So you feel compelled to work just as hard to be
Yes.
able to achieve that result.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, it's not just this is your role, this is my role. It's we're
Yes.
working together to make this happen. There's people who are counting on us, and we're in a role of power where we can contribute back. So that allows us to maneuver through different challenges as
Mm.
well.
I think that something that really stuck with me from what you said is being able to rely on the people
Mm-hmm.
around you. Because I feel like a lot of students at AUPP, um, we get put into group work quite often,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's very challenging because we're so used to the idea that, like, oh, your studies is your work, and this bit is your bit, that bit is yours, and if you aren't doing it properly, then everybody goes
Yes.
down, and then, like, all the blame should be put on that one person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that a more efficient or a more uh nicer way I would
Mm-hmm.
say to approach like group work is like as you said, it's not you against the other person, but it's you, that person, against the issue or the
Mm-hmm.
problem. And I think that a lot of like students can learn from that,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea that it's not just always, oh, this is yours,
Mm-hmm.
this is mine, but it's a thing of like this is ours, this is
Yes.
something we can move forward with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's like really
Mm-hmm.
inspiring, and it's good to hear from you because it shows that it works
Mm-hmm.
and it is effective.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of AUPP and the students here and what they can learn from
Mm-hmm.
you, how did your time in AUPP influence the way you approach like your work? Were there any specific classes
Mm-hmm.
or professors or campus experiences that helped prepare you for like this line of work?
Mm-hmm. My time at AUPP was wonderful. I loved my major so much. I love the friend group that I have. I love my professors. Several courses that I find really relevant and applicable to my work were gender and development. We did a lot of, actually, we touched, one of my classmates gave a presentation about the project that I'm currently working on. And I also told my colleagues about that, and they were like, wow, I can't believe the impact we're making is not only relevant to people in that profession, but also can be used as presentation and for paper writings for students in university as well. So that was a course that really stuck with me. We also did sustainable development studies as well, which gave us a picture of how we would want to grow professionally and how we all can contribute to the development sector, even if we're not directly working in it. We also did research methods and design, which taught us about different research methods, such as qualitative, quantitative, and we did a lot of practical work as well. I think we went around the campus asking the staff members about how we can do better waste management. And I can see now that I actually walked around campus for a while before coming here, and I saw that the trash bins are now clear. That was one of the issues we talked about, how it was sort of like the social issue with how your peers perceive you if you throw the wrong type of trash into the bin, because it's clear and everyone can see. And there's labels, and it will also give an easier time to our staff members when it's time for them to sort of manage the waste as well. So that was one of the practical experience that we were introduced to do around campus. And then I'm not sure if this is still a requirement, during my time in the major, we were required to do a capstone course where we work on a research project of our choice. So that means you're leading the whole project with the support of your professor as an advisor. So you choose a topic, and then you choose the methods, you do the desk review and literature review, and then you conduct interviews with the relevant stakeholders, and then we defend it like our thesis. So I find that those courses were really relevant, and our professors also had a huge influence on the way that we see things. A huge shout out to Professor Mora, Professor Sarah, and Professor Teresa. I also was a member of the committee at the Center for Southeast Asian Studies as well. And that really exposed us to different experiences of the arts and culture, and allowed us to do a lot of exchanges and experiences and inputs as well. We hosted the Together We Remember event to commemorate the Khmer Rouge regime and survivors, and we touched upon different topics as well. So I find that it was a rewarding experience at AUPP, because I got to meet so many people, did so many things. Those things are all things that I like the point that you always reflect back between the professional world and the academic world, because at the end of the day, it's the same pattern. You work in a group assignment, and that ties into how you work as a team. You complete your coursework, your assignments, and that also translates into how you deliver your task when you're doing your work professionally as well. So it's about learning and growing as a person, and knowing how to reflect on your experiences and what you would do for yourself for improvement, and how you can contribute overall to your team in your work life as well.
And honestly, shout out to Professor Mora and Professor Sarah and Professor Therese, because even though I never had class with them, I always heard very stunning remarks from everyone, even all of my IR friends who are studying right now. They always look back on how they had class with Professor Mora and Professor Sarah and Professor Therese, and they all always had such nice things to say. And Professor Therese helped lead a club that I was part of, and every moment chatting with her was always very insightful. It was always very calm as well. It never felt like it was intimidating. So it just goes to show what good and what kind professors really, they leave such an impact on us. And did you take dual degree when you were here, Bong?
It wasn't available yet. during my
Oh,
time here, but I heard now that there's
yeah,
a dual degree with Fort Hays State
yeah.
University, which I think that students should really consider. Before, we were always envious of students in law and
Oh,
business and
really?
IT who had the chance to do a dual degree with the University of Arizona and Fort Hays State University. But now that there's a chance to do a dual degree in political science, I think would really be beneficial on their resume, and also their exposure to multicultural environments, and that would translate well into when it's time for them to search for job opportunities as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm really happy to hear that the IR department
Mm-hmm.
now has like dual degree as well, because I remember my friends were quite upset about it too. They were voicing their
Mm-hmm.
concerns to me about how come everyone else gets a dual degree and then they don't. But it's good to see that IR is expanding, because if I remember correctly, when IR started in AUPP, there weren't that many students, right?
Yeah, throughout the years, the student population for IR is quite small, and
Mm.
so when we're in a class, for example, when I'm doing my law minor, and even sometimes when we're doing IR courses, there's almost as many law students in our classes as IR students.
Oh, really?
Yes, but I have a deep admiration for students in law
Oh,
because I find that law and global affairs or international relations are quite linked and close
yes.
together, but there's a lot more technical knowledge that goes into law.
Mhm.
In international relations, we most of our course assignments are doing a paper where
Yeah.
we provide an argument and
Mhm.
we protect our stance on that argument. Whereas in law, there's a lot of analysis and attention to
Too
detail,
much, yeah.
terminologies, vocabularies that you use. A single word that you write in your paper could alter the entire
Yeah.
definition. So yeah, it was a great experience how at APP you're able to do minors, and
Mhm.
there's also sort of prerequisite courses where there's a mix of different students from different majors,
Mhm.
so you get an insight into how other students are doing their internships, how they're studying in their courses, and that allows you to broaden your perspective. And I
Mhm.
think it's also available for you to change majors like a couple of years in if you're
Yeah.
interested in another major. And I
Mhm.
think that's really important because when you're a high school student and you're choosing a major, you're making the decision based off the information that you get from people, which
Mhm.
is really relevant. But then also, when you're experiencing it firsthand, you might have a change in perspective and decision. And so, being able to meet other students
Mhm.
really allow you to get a broader perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to say I have a very deep admiration for
Mhm.
IR students as
Uh-huh.
well, because even though I am a law student, and as you said, we have all these documents and
Mm.
vocabularies and all these detailed things that we have to always think about. One of my very good friends that I
Mhm.
spend every day with is an IR student, and even though she says that my course seems hard, when I
Mhm.
look at her courses, I think there's no way mine are hard, because yours look much, much bigger, because she's always saying, oh, she's got a paper due, she's always
Mm.
doing this and doing that. And I'm just like, wow, that's like a lot of long form stuff.
Mm.
And in law, we do like case briefs, very short,
Mm.
2 pages or something. But even though we do a lot, like, I feel like it takes more commitment to
Mhm.
do something like what she does, where it's like long, long, long papers that are like 12, 13 pages, maybe sometimes even up to 30 something. And like all the research she puts into it, all of the citation work and all of that. Like, yeah, like as you mentioned, like you took capstone and you
Mhm.
took gender development,
Mhm.
and like she's going through like those courses right now. So like I get firsthand to see
Okay.
like everything that goes on. And yeah, I have such deep commitment for
Mm.
IR students, especially now that I also share a class with them.
Mhm.
I take international law, and like
Ah.
half of the class is IR students, half the class is law students, and we all collectively just like, it's interesting to see how it's the same subject we're
Mhm.
studying, but our perceptions and our understandings of it is so different
Mhm.
and so vastly varied as well. It's like me and my friend, we study together. We always share our different perspectives on the class. Like, even though we're learning the exact same thing, the same slides, same words, same professor, same lectures, we always have to go back and forth between each other to understand that, like, oh, this is the legal part of it, this is the more diplomacy part of it, and that's
Exactly.
like, even though they're so
Mm-hmm.
similar, they're so different as well.
Yes, that's the perfect way to
Mm-hmm.
describe it.
And when you were studying here, what would you say is like the most useful tool that you continue to use even today in your line of work?
Mm, I think I remember one phrase that Donald Rallis used to say. AUPP or any university is not just providing you information, they're teaching you how to learn and how to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So active learning is a continuous process. You don't just stop learning once you graduate from
Yeah.
university. And so take for example those in IT.
Mm-hmm.
Technology is always evolving. You know, the tools and the stuff that AUP teach you might not be relevant or applicable once you move further along the years because there's always something new coming.
Yes,
So
definitely.
so AUPP sort of creates that environment for continuous learning. So for IR students, we have a lot of Telegram groups where there's
Yeah.
always news and information that's being put into the group and that we can stay in touch and keep up to date on so many things. So that's the environment that APP has. We also have a lot of extracurricular as well. I
Yeah.
heard that you're leading a literature club here
Yes,
at
literature,
APP.
yeah.
Yes, so taking those activities are also really helpful in the long run as well because you're studying one thing but you don't want to just stick to it. You want to
Yes,
be able
definitely.
to explore, and when people talk to you, they want to see how much experience you've had, not just in your classes but how much you've had outside of it. So like I mentioned, staying engaged, like
Mm-hmm.
just talking to your professors because for me to have experience in this major, they're not just professors. At the end of the day, they're like mentors because
Yes.
we share a lot of experiences. They share about their research work, how they perceive Cambodia, their life living here.
Mm.
At the end of the day, it's about building connections with the people that you meet, and also learning more about yourself, your strengths and weaknesses along the way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And talking about like strengths and weaknesses, in your area of work, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of mention of empowerment
Mm-hmm.
and giving strength back to the world. What does it mean to you though, personally, the word empowerment? Like, especially in the areas that you work and you tackle every day. Like, what does it really like? How does
Mm.
it resonate with you?
Like you mentioned, empowerment is a big word.
Yeah.
Really, to me, it means power and agency. And empowerment is in project management is quite hard to measure, to quantify, because you really cannot say how do you determine whether that person is empowered or not. But empowerment, the word that we used, to me really just means that you're giving power to that person, you're
Mm-hmm.
giving knowledge to them, but at the end of the day they're given the agency to make informed decision making, right? So it's their lives. You're here to provide them with information and bring them capacity building, but you're also giving them an opportunity to learn, to actually evaluate the pros and the cons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these people are coming in with these knowledge. I see these foreigners in our communities, in our villages.
Yeah.
They're telling us all of these things. But at the end of the day, it's up to them to be able to have conversations like, do we just utterly believe them or do we take in
Mm.
this knowledge, think about it, assess? Because with behavior change communication, that means that we're not just giving them free stuff or just doing charity work. We're providing them information and they use that to change behaviors. And behaviors is actually linked to tradition, to culture, things that they've done for so long in their lives, things that they've done that way their whole life. So it's hard to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's up to them to be able to take a step and think, oh, should we embrace and adopt this new way of living? would that be beneficial for us, or should we just stick to the past? And I think that really sort of encapsulates the word empower, because at the end of the day, it's their life, it's their
Yes.
choice, and it's not up to the donors who are providing us the funds to conduct the project, and it's not up to us who are the project implementers. It's not up to the local authorities who are coordinating on the groundwork. It's up to the beneficiaries to think whether they should adopt these new ways of living and actually improve their livelihoods. So I think that really is what empowerment means to me.
That's really incredible that to you, it's not just about what you can do, but it's also about people taking their steps to be better as well. So yeah, like I think that's just like a staple of what empowerment can be. It's like it's not just to give to people, but it's to allow them the chance. Yeah. So you guys, as previously mentioned, you do a lot, right? And you do everything from data reviews to like event planning and even like supply coordination. How do these like behind the scene tasks contribute to your long term impact?
I think in the previous work that I've been in, whether that be in the embassy or at the research institution, people in the higher level actually pay a lot of respect to the behind the scene responsibilities. For example, you go to an event, it runs really smoothly and you have a good experience. But behind that, that might be months and months of planning and changing and just long discussions over outside of work hours. And so, really, it's about paying attention to every single detail and just putting your best, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to achieve a result that is good for everyone. You want participants to have a good experience. Say, for example, you're hosting a capacity building workshop. You want people to have an environment where, the digital technologies are working well, that the exchange of inputs and experiences are progressing smoothly, and that there's rich content. And so that allows us to really provide a good experience and translate into more productive learning and work as well. And if we're doing celebration workshops, usually with projects, when there's a project closure, you sort of do a celebration workshop to reflect on the achievements and the targets that have been reached by the project. And so that's when you include local authorities, people that you work with, to understand the impact of their work. Because usually for local authorities, they're usually just in their province, right? But the scale of what we're working on is in so many different provinces. These project impacts are also communicated to other countries as well. So at an international development organization, you're not only working in country, you're hosting different international delegations, and you get to have an exchange of experiences between different countries and understanding the local and cultural context. So there will be a lot of requirements for logistics, for them to, maybe this is their first time to Cambodia, so you want them to have a good experience, so that they can also go back and tell their colleagues and other people about it as well. And so that goes into that. And then when you're doing event preparation, you're working with different suppliers. And when you're working in the provinces, there's a difference in understanding, in literacy, in the adoption of processes, because working in development, there's a lot of processes and compliances. And so you have to take the time and have the patience to have them understand. And I find that these behind the scene tasks really ties in together and ensure that the day-to-day task of other people in the team, for example, there be technical experts where they bring the content, there be the management level who are decision makers. So with project support, we're able to create an environment that is comfortable for them for productive learning and working as well, which I find is significant in all terms, whether that be development in business or in any other areas of profession.
And You say that you did a lot of event planning, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I really relate with that because running the play that I do now, it's very like so much behind the scenes work. And what would you say was one of the most challenging events that you had to plan for and you had to organize?
We recently had an event for over 1,000 people.
Oh my goodness.
And so, as opposed to, conducting an event in a hotel where you're working with the hotel staff, there's already a room for you. There's all these facilities available for you. When you're doing it in the provinces and in the field, you have to think about everything from the
Yeah.
tent to the stage to the size of the venue
Yeah.
to the fans,
Mm-hmm.
whether there's gonna be any unfavorable weather conditions,
Yeah.
whether there's gonna be enough toilets, whether they can hear from the back, whether there's gonna be any traffic along the way
Yeah.
for our distinguished guests to the provinces. So you think about every single step of the way, and that to me was really challenging, but also really gratifying because we get to show people as they pass by down the roads. They're always looking, okay, what are they doing? What are they working on? And stuff like that. So we get to bring these knowledges and our distinguished guests, our government counterparts, to the field location and to show people that this is the how big the project is and how important their work is to be collaborating
Yes.
alongside us as an international development organization. And so it really teaches us a lot along the way about being prepared, about risk, understanding risk, knowing how to mitigate those risks, and then also how to be flexible on the
Yes,
spot. Because
definitely.
I know you have also a lot of experiences in event planning. There's always going to be changes along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Your agenda will not be the first draft. There's going to
Yeah.
be 10, 20 drafts as the composition of the people joining would change, changes in plans and budgets and timing
Yeah.
availability, so that allows you to embrace and be well prepared, and that pattern can also be replicated in your other works as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, in life, for example, you aren't always certain about your milestones,
Yes.
your timeline, but it's about being flexible and being able to embrace those experiences and how you can learn from them.
Mm.
Yeah.
I should take that advice because I'm too much of a perfectionist with things sometimes. So when things change, it gets a bit hard for me to accept changes. And I'm just like, oh, well, I really wish we could have kept it this way. But it's all right. We have to move forward. And it really like reminds me of what you said before about like teamwork. You have to be flexible with each other. You have to work with each other and trust each other. And yeah, I have to like take that on board for myself, like internally for my work now. Um, since you've been working with such a like diverse stakeholders from like local communities to international partners, how do you effectively build trust and accommodate individual professionals in a nonprofit setting?
This is something I learned from our management level. So, they don't see Cambodian counterparts as someone else. We call them colleagues. They're our colleagues because we
Yes.
work so close together. In my case, an organization has quite a small number of people compared to the number of beneficiaries that we're reaching. So, for example, a team of 7 people cannot reach up to 100,000 families or households. And so, what we do is we work with local authorities, village chiefs, commune chiefs, district level to provide capacity building to them, and it's up to the local authorities to further disseminate that knowledge to people in the communities. So they would take on the role of data collection, monitoring. They invite villagers to join our meetings, to join our celebrations. And so working with other stakeholders is understanding there's a difference in the level of understanding in terms of the way they communicate, in terms of language, in terms of the adoption of processes, because things run very differently, you know, in the local context and in the international context. We always want things to move fast, you know, move quick.
Yes.
But it's understanding that local authorities aren't just working for your one project. They have their
Yeah.
own roles. They also have work with other projects with other organizations as well. So it's having that understanding and being able to empathize and also build your connections, because respect goes both ways. They're always trying their best to accommodate. When we have international guests, they always try to make sure that everything is prepared. They prepare snacks, coconuts for us. And so it's also up to us to be understanding to them as well. We want to do an event on a certain day, but that also coincides with one of their other schedules. It's
Oh,
being able
yeah.
to reach a common ground and understand that things don't always go the way that we want them to. And we must work together and discuss how we can better approach that issue. So I think is one of the valuable lessons as well. Yes, because they're the ones that really contribute massively to the project. So what we're doing is just guiding, we're just monitoring, but it's them to really bring about these impacts to their community. Because once a project closes or ends, it's up to the local authorities to whether to continue to provide these kinds of information to the people, to continue making progress. At the end of the day, it's about community ownership. An organization is going to be there for, you know, a couple of years, but
Yes.
local authorities, they're the natives there, they're the locals there, and they're the ones who have the direct links and connections to the people. And it's up to them to be able to understand that this is for the well-being and for the good of their own villages and communities. So I find that a process to be empowering, because we're not only empowering the beneficiaries, but we're also empowering local authorities to be able to do public speaking, to do presentations, to use technologies. We're doing research, for example, we're introducing them to these tools and apps where we can do data collection. So it's not really manually. So we're building capacity. And so they're also learning from that to be able to speak in front of an audience. And so when there are other projects or any policies that is being introduced, whether by the government or other organizations, they're able to take on these challenges because they're growing not only professionally, but there's a personal growth and a deeper attachment between them and the people in the communities as well.
That's really nice. 'Cause sometimes when people bring others into our community, there's always this expectation that like those that enter the community has to like adhere to our
Yes.
beliefs and our understandings, but when you show that you respect them as well and their beliefs and their understandings, it creates diversity, it creates a stronger community in my opinion. And it just says a lot that like we as people should always embrace difference sometimes, and that it's not always about like, oh, it's just our opinions and it's just our thoughts, but it's always about having connections and building connections through just understanding one another and having
Exactly.
the capacity to say, okay, this didn't work out, well, we can do something else. And I think that's something that a lot of students can learn, and is that having the flexibility to open yourself to different ideas is very important, and that opening yourself up to other people's ideas and opinions is very crucial for like continued personal growth, but also like growth between friendships and relationships.
Exactly, yeah.
So even though your line of work seems so diverse, most people have a straightforward thinking and conception of your work, and especially in nonprofit, most people believe that nonprofit is kind of like a working for charity, just working for volunteering, and you're basing all of your funding on just charity and donations. So, in your opinion, what's one like major misconception people have about what you do, and especially in development work?
I think one of the main misconceptions they have is that development work is simple. You get funds from a donor and then you just help people. But when you say helping people, there's so many processes that go into that. There's so many policies and compliances that you need to adhere to. For example, with budget depletion, you're racing against time. Are you spending enough money? Are you overspending, underspending? How can you implement more activities or cut down activities to fit the budget for each month? And then it also comes down to when you're doing procurement and operations. Are you doing the conflict of interest? Are you having people sign and have people understand how it is that we work with transparency when we're using funds from a donor? Because it's not like you want to spend and then you spend, right? You need to be very careful about what you spend on, how you choose different suppliers. And so these policies and regulations take time. And so if you have an activity coming up, you need to take into account how long these processes will take, how best to prepare for them. And so that really adds to, it's not just about helping people. Within that helping people, there are so many different things to take into account, so many different factors. And then also one of the integral parts is we do monitoring, evaluation, and learning. To us, these kinds of knowledge is simple enough to understand because we have had education, we know different languages, we've read and we've worked on these things for so long. But it's to understand how are these information being absorbed, you know? Is it simple enough for them? Because, for example, when we do sort of these learning workshops with people in the communities, some people don't really understand when you use terminologies or words or give explanations that are hard to comprehend. So for example, what I find works well with them are pictures. They understand really well from pictures, especially with elderlies who have trouble hearing.
Yes.
They can see pictures big and clear, and when we do assessments and we ask them, okay, what do you remember from the learning workshops? Many of them would say, okay, they remember what the village chiefs told them about this and that. But many of them also say, oh, I remember the picture that they were showing up, the banners and the gallery walks and the cards that they give us. So that allows us to learn from their perspective as well. Because you're not only enforcing these implementations on them, you're also understanding their perspective, how well they are able to absorb the information that we give them, how better we can improve. So there's a lot of factors that go into play, and that's much just adaptive management. You're not just, okay, you have a plan, this is what you want to do in a year. January you'll do this, next month you'll do this. It's about doing that, but then also always learning from the experience and changing things as you go. And yeah, helping people is just not just about giving them stuff. It's easy to give people subsidized, but how well do they use those things, you know? If you're working on education, then you need to understand the context of students, of parents. And if you're working with women, you need to understand the demographics and the cultural context of the livelihoods in the countryside, because everywhere is different. The data that we get from provinces are different because some provinces have a higher sort of livelihood, better quality of life, so their way of thinking is also different. So working in development is not just about helping people, but always actively learning from the people that we help and continuously adapting to the context to ensure that the impacts that we make are actually tangible and that can be sustained in the long run as well.
And I think that you just evoked like a core memory from me, and I think that I'd like to share it with you is that even though you weren't part of development yet, one of the core memories I have as a child actually is you spoke about how village elders will sometimes go to like these meetings,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where like village chief holds like a meeting to talk about what's going on in the village, like any events that are being planned. And I remember being a some like 5 6 year old,
Mm-hmm.
and I was with my grandmother, and she lives out way in the
Mm-hmm.
provinces, like one of the provinces that goes up to like the border of Thailand. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
um it's a very small village, but it was modernized enough
Mm-hmm.
where they had meetings, and I would sit with her, and like she would point at photos for me, and she would tell me all these different things about what the village was doing and
Mm-hmm.
how they were developing. And it really blew me away as a kid when a village as small as hers was celebrating
Mm-hmm.
bigger than Phnom Penh sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was because of these village chiefs that were really enforcing development there and being very wise with how they
Mm-hmm.
spent their money. Because my grandmother's home back
Mm-hmm.
there, they had much bigger Chinese celebrations than we did. Like for
Mm-hmm.
Chinese New Year, their celebrations were like people coming into each other's houses, the whole
Mm-hmm.
community getting together, and the village chief walking around the city, not the city, but like the town, and like welcoming people left and
Mm-hmm.
right. And even though like you weren't part of it then, it still says a lot that development impacts not just, I guess, industry or
Mm-hmm.
economy, but it impacts lives, it
Mm-hmm.
impacts culture, it impacts personal experiences. That even as you just talk about these things, it makes me remember back
Mm-hmm.
to when I was a kid and what it's like to see Cambodia develop and see provinces stand on themselves now without having to depend on the industrial city,
Mm-hmm.
and that more is coming for Cambodia, and we are developing. And it says a lot that the development sector that you work in, you are doing your job and
Mm-hmm.
it's effective, it's growing. And it, like, just to compare Cambodia back then to now is like, it's completely different.
Yes.
So yeah, if anything, I'd like to say maybe thank you for the work that you do, because it really does inspire so many good memories in people,
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially in me. And I think that our students can look at this and look around the world themselves and self
Mm-hmm.
reflect with how development has impacted them. Because I feel like sometimes we just, the world, it moves so fast, we don't get
Mm-hmm.
to stand and look back. And yeah, I really feel like our listeners can look back on what you said and think back, like, did they have a core memory like me
Mm-hmm.
where the world seemed to have changed and the world seemed to have gotten better suddenly, and that it's all because of people like you and people like
Thank
your
you.
colleagues who are putting in these kind of efforts to embetter
Mm-hmm.
just cultural life and personal life too. And it's not just always about money. Yeah. And I think that's such like a staple thing
Mm-hmm.
for what it's like to be working in nonprofit. That it's not just always about the money, but it's also very much about the people too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm really glad to hear that it really evoked a memorable time for you with your grandmother. And yeah, it's to say that development doesn't only happen in the development sector.
Mm-hmm.
People who work in business, if they work in corporate social responsibility, will do kind of a similar thing to be able to provide and contribute back to communities.
Mm-hmm.
AUPP, for example, does go to a lot of provinces to provide students about education
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. That is a way of exchanging of knowledge, of being able to give back. APP also has a lot of scholarships for students as well. So this is how development takes place. It's not just really structured. It's just in a little bit of every field that you do, and that really allows us to really come as one and understand that we're Cambodians. We want to
Mm-hmm.
help the people who have not had the access to the things that we've had, and this exchange of knowledge is a really significant part of our growth, of our memories, to us and to our families as
Mm-hmm.
well. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
And I wanted to ask, have you faced any situations where nonprofit work went above your expectations? Like when you first started working, you obviously had your own opinions
Mm-hmm.
and conceptions about it. So when was a time where you walked in and then you just saw something that blew you out of the water?
Mm, I would say that people in, I mean, I work in Cambodia, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm exposed to working with villages in Cambodia, is how they're so appreciative of
Ooh.
even the small things. It makes you appreciate the little things in life, the things that they might not have access to, the things
Mm-hmm.
that we might have taken for granted. They're so appreciative of the new knowledge, and that really changes my outlook on life. You know, there's people out there who really desire these things, they want these things, and that's when I am able to reflect on my growth and my journey, and
Mm-hmm.
also when I face difficulties in personal life, professional life, I'm reminded by how resilient we are as Cambodians. Despite our dark history, Cambodians are one of the friendliest populations ever. That's what I hear from
Mm-hmm.
international consultants and our foreign officers that we work with, is how welcoming we are,
Yeah.
how we grow from the pain, and how we're always open to new learnings as well. And that really blew me away, how lucky I am to be born in this country, how lucky I am to be contributing back to my home country. And that makes you feel a lot, because
Mm-hmm.
part of growing professionally and personally is embracing the up and downs,
Yes.
embracing your feelings. You sometimes may feel a little bit uncomfortable when you're taking on new challenges. You may feel a little bit sad when you're finishing up an event, or you're feeling sometimes just ecstatic about how the work is going, or excited about new things to come. So it's about embracing these feelings and being able to just not just see, but to observe, just to take it all in. So that was one part that really blew me away about development work, because going in, mostly you're worried about how you're going to deliver your task. It's mostly about you
Mm-hmm.
as a person. But once I have integrated more into it, it's about everyone. It's about
Yeah.
how I play a role in their lives, how they play a role in my life, and that allowed me to really grow as a person and learn from the experience.
Mm. I feel like when you speak on these things,
Mhm.
you would probably inspire some of our students and maybe even some alumni. So, if you were to inspire these people and they wanted to contribute to
Mhm.
what you do, or maybe even sustainable development, but they aren't in that field, like you said, some business
Mhm.
students might not understand what to do moving forward. So, what's like one step that they can take that would be meaningful to joining something that you do?
Yes. So everyone must have their own interests and their own schedules and time management.
Mhm.
Um, So, one of the things that I find that we can easily do now is to be active social media users. It's so easy now to get access to information, to be able to share this information to the people around us. So, just liking, supporting, sharing these posts
Mm.
about whether there be um, any good development work, is just being up to date in the landscape of development, how international organizations are doing in Cambodia. For example, there's a lot of stuff now on migration
Mhm.
because of the current situation. There may be a lot of stuff on the water sector, or like the agricultural sector, because that's a huge part of our country's economy and GDP. So just being up to date, following up with the news, and then just supporting on social media and sharing this information to the people around them would make an impact, because for us as development work, one of our core components as well is to for our communication materials, we communicate these impacts not only to the donors, but to the wider audience of Cambodia, because uh, I've had the chance to do like exhibition booths in different events, and some of the areas that we work on with our project is not really known to people in other sectors. So on social media, you can find a lot of information. Just following up on how Cambodia is progressing is a good way. But if you want to take another step further, there are also a lot of volunteering opportunities that you can learn and do some work on the ground, participate in research. Um, Within the IR community, there's a lot of research opportunities to be able to go interview people on different subjects and topics, which I think is a good experience. If it's not something they want to pursue, like full on in their profession, but also some side work that they can gain experience from, and that would also be beneficial to put on their resume as well. Yes, and so everyone can contribute. It's not just people in international relations
Yeah.
or diplomacy. Students from across all majors can contribute in, and I find that these experience would allow them to grow personally, professionally, and be able to provide them a lot of reflections as well. So these are some of the things that students or anyone can do, really.
And if you can't, if our students can't take like one big step, would you agree that like they can take a lot of small steps? Like, specifically, like talking about sustainable development, I think that a staple way that like uh, environmental protection can come in the form of just like changing a small habit.
Exactly.
Yeah, like maybe instead of always using plastic for something, you switch to cardboard or you recycle a bottle. I think that even if they are interested in this and they want to help with development or they want to help with sustainable development, it doesn't just come in the form of doing like these big things, but it also can come in the form of doing smaller things at home and just changing even like one step in your daily routine could help so much in like the long run, as because
Yes.
all these small things, they add up into a much bigger thing. And if one person does it and then more than one person does it, it really does add up, and then impact starts to be shown. Like, would you agree with that?
Yes, I think everyone can really take that step.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly easier said than done, but
Yeah.
it's that personal reflection of how things are being done for a really long time, but always being curious, always learning about
Mm-hmm.
how you can do things differently to improve in your daily life, because uh, each of our footprints in this world leaves behind something, you know.
Yeah.
So being able to take that step and make that commitment, not to anyone, you're not proving to anyone that you're the better person or the bigger person. It's to yourself of how you want to improve with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, really makes an impact. Like you said, if one person does it, maybe the impact is this much, but if everyone does it, the impact is much more massive,
Mm-hmm.
and that allows us to grow together. And also, we can share these experiences with the people around us, because when we have friend groups, when we have colleagues, our way of living also is being observed by them. If you're doing a good thing for the environment, or if you have a specific interest in something, that's really bound to be understood and heard by them as well. So as humans, we live as social beings, and so this is how we make an impact, is always being open to learning, you know,
Mm.
not just, I live this way, this life all along, and there's nothing to change. It's always about, why do we think the way that we
Mm-hmm.
think? Why do we do things the way that we do? What can we do to change? Because I don't think it really costs much to make these small
Yeah.
changes in our lives. So I think yeah, it's the perfect point that you really raised up there.
Thank you. And for students, what would you advise them? Like, what would your advice for students
Hmm.
be? Like, no matter if they're in high school or if they're an undergraduate, like if they would wish to pursue a career and dedicate their profession to NGOs and community service, what would be like the staple piece of advice you would give?
I would say talk to people who are working in the sector, because
Mm-hmm.
they've had experiences, they've transitioned between a lot of different workplaces sometimes. And so understanding the raw and real perspective is really crucial to understanding what to expect from the profession. Um, I'm obviously here for this podcast, but I'm really early on in my career, so I hope that I'm providing such a sort of like a young professional perspective who's still really early on in a career. But then also, I'm still at an age where I'm exploring, and so what I'm doing today is sharing with you my experiences in the development sector, so our audience who are watching this podcast may get a little bit more insight about what to expect in the development sector. And then also, it's about understanding your strengths and weaknesses, because there are things that we want to do, but there's not we can't really just go for it without thinking about the practicalities. So if you're comfortable with traveling, with meeting a lot of people, new people, being adaptable and flexible, I feel like it's a good quality that you have there to be able to go into the sector. And so just try to get a bigger perspective before you go into something, but then also don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zones, because uh, for me, for example, what I've done over these years is just transitioning between different sectors. So for me, development sector is really new, and I started in this job with a lot of challenges as well, because when you're doing something new, you will need a lot of guidance from the people around you, from your colleagues, from your networks. Um, but it's about owning that decision, you know? It's like, oh, it's a good learning experience and it's a decision I make. So I must account for that decision. So it's a good point to consider as well. And so students might have a lot of interest in so many different areas, but if they're interested in development, then it's best to talk to people who have worked in development, or LinkedIn is one
Yes.
such platform that they can connect to different people, because a lot of the development opportunities we also search on LinkedIn as well. People share about the activities, we learn what is being done in Cambodia, but then we also learn what is being done in other parts of the world as well. So it allows you to get a broader perspective of where the development sector is heading. For Cambodia, I would say we're progressing rapidly, but that also means that aid might be shrinking one way or another. So it's to think about the practicalities of is the job market, where the job market is heading, whether development takes on so many different forms. Do you want to work in an embassy? Embassy also does development work through other implementers, so you could go into a more diplomatic route, or you could really go into a deep dive into sort of field work, or you could do research, which also contributes to development. So it's understanding what you like and what you are good at, what you can take on for a professional role, so that you make good use of your time and that you feel happy about what you do, because it's not just about delivering your task, it's also about how you feel doing that work, how you follow your passion, how you understand more about yourself as well. Yeah, I would say.
From your advice that you've given, the students from AUPP probably would take this on board a lot, because many students probably they're wondering what happens when they finish graduating and they go on into the world, and seeing your perspective where you just stepped out from studying and you've just entered the working space. Students probably would really value this advice because they want to know what it's like. Because they probably are worried, they're scared, they're anxious about having to step into a new environment. But seeing that you say that working at school and working outside, there's a lot of parallels that coincide with each other. So I think that this would give them some comfort and some like peace of mind in knowing that they are here, they already understand what a lot is happening outside, and even though there's so much more for them to learn, they already have good foundational basis for making decisions and understanding that the decisions that they make in the future, they should own it, and that it's not just a thing of like because they've made mistakes, they should regret it. And I think your experience really shines that, in that making decisions, stepping forward can be scary. You had challenges, that's true, but it creates so much as well from it. And I think what you have earned from it is so much more than what you had to put in to deal with all these challenges. And I think because you put in the effort to deal with the challenges you first faced, that it shines brightly the impacts and the what you have gained from it in general. So I would like to say thank you once again for coming onto the podcast
you
and
for
sharing
having
your
me.
journey and sharing your advice. We would like to say we hope you have a continued success in your journey moving
you.
forward. And we would like to thank the listeners for listening from the beginning to the end. If you have any comments, thoughts, or feelings, you can leave them in the comments. Make sure to like and share and subscribe. Share with your family and friends. We would also like to give a shout out to Two Beans, the cafe downstairs, for their drinks and giving us some, because these were actually really good. I like this one. This was different from the one I had last time.
What is your drink?
This is a red lemon tea. I think. Yeah,
okay.
very nice. And we hope that today's episode brings our listeners inspirations in understanding what they can do moving forward. And one last thing, as a surprise gift, we would like to gift you a AUPP blue jacket.
This is so lovely.
A
Thank
blue
you so
hoodie.
much. Oh my god. Look at this. There's even the AUPP logo at the back. Oh my god. This is perfect for the current weather.
Really?
And
is it a bit too big for you, or
No,
is that alright?
it's a good size. I
Okay,
have
that's
some
great.
international travels coming up, so I'll wear this and show off to all my colleagues about where I went to in university. Thank you so much. This is so nice of you.
Once again, thank you so much,
Thank
Paul, for
you.
coming onto the podcast, and see you all next time. AUPP. Study locally, live globally. Apply to AUPP today.